Warrant Officer, we were still busy dealing with the February 2020 bust, and you were dealing with the fact that you had called LCRC and FSL to the scene. I just want you to explain to us the purpose of calling LCRC to the scene, and are you required to call them, or is it just a nice to do?
Commissioner, you're required. Circumstances may pertain to different elements, etc., like that, but I will say you are required to call them to a scene.
And why are you calling them to the scene? What are they doing there?
With modern technology, a photograph becomes a museum of the crime scene. You capture elements of the crime scene that can be brought back to a courtroom. We're talking 2020, we're now in 2026. We're looking at exactly what happened on that date. If it wasn't for those photographs there that day, we couldn't talk about it. And if I could not be able to speak, my photograph would speak for me. And if I was not here, touch wood, possibly somebody else could give evidence on that photograph to lead that evidence, as captured by someone that is court capable and forensically capable of retrieving that. So that is why you call them out. That is in respect of photographs. There is fingerprint information. On most of our scenes, you find someone has to touch it. It cannot move without being manhandled. So by him touching it, he would leave a latent fingerprint on the scene, which we need. And at the same time, he would also leave part of his DNA behind, which we also take swabs for. So it's DNA, it's fingerprints, and it's crime scene preservation and recording for court. And it's going to form part of my notes. If I forget something and I need to make a statement, it's recorded in those photographs. So I do the same thing on a scene. I use contemporaneous notes. I will either write down notes, but I'm very quick to take lots of photographs on the scene. I download them, and then they are in my albums. I depose an affidavit to them, and I submit them as such. Otherwise, you'll never keep up to all what's happening, all the different numbers, locations, things. So it's nice to keep those notes.
And are there circumstances in which it's just not possible to get LCRC to come out? And what do you do in those circumstances?
There are, Commissioner. I was asked about a scene where fingerprints could not come out. 16 nautical miles out at sea, we removed a shipment of cocaine out of a fridge. It's literally the motor of a fridge. They hide the drugs in the air vent of the fridge. It's the same as putting your hand in a deep freeze. When you take out the Tupperware bowl, it's going to precipitate, so it's going to be wet. But the fingerprints members and the LCR, or the fingerprints guys and the FSL guys, aren't qualified to go out to sea. They're not prepared to go and put their lives at stake and go 16 nautical miles out to sea, climb 10 floors up on a container ship, then still climb below deck. It's a hazardous environment. Yes, I've got experience in it. I'm from that environment. I can swim maybe as well. But the point is, in that environment, I must try and take more steps to preserve that. So I would have taken a lot of contemporaneous notes on the scene. And I've got the one example where we got the cocaine. I even allow the ship's captain and the customs officers that raided with us to take their notes and photographs. And then I submit that with a statement in my docket. And also if the weather is really inclement. If you're in an outside area and it's really raining or whatever, you can't take photographs nicely, or you can't take fingerprints nicely. That would be another a non-persuasive environment. But otherwise, if you move things around, you should be able to make it quite cozy that the fingerprint expert can work in an environment that you can work through the day and the night.
When General Flynn gave evidence on the table that we went through earlier, he made a comment. I'll just give you the reference and I'll read it. It's in his supplementary statement at paragraph 11 on page 6 of section 1. He says, from the aforementioned, I was able to ascertain that unlike the June 2021 seizure, 11.1, LCRC was called to the scene to process the crime scene in respect of all the other seizures, except the second Bologna vessel seizure and the Manu Chao seizure. You earlier identified both Polonia seizures as being your seizures, correct?
That's correct.
So he criticized that in LCRC, well, I wouldn't say it's a criticism, but he noted that LCRC wasn't called out in two seizures. The one is yours, and the other one is Manuchal. In respect of yours, why didn't you call out LCRC?
Approximately 12 nautical miles out at sea off the coast of Mhlanga Rocks in Durban. Bad waters, bad seas. A small ski boat was used. Very quiet and let's call it a covert operation was sent to go and search the container for drugs, and it turned out to be positive. So the other thing is we didn't know the drugs were going to be there.
So you do the seizure on sea? It was on the sea?
That's correct.
And that's why you didn't call them. So that's
Yes.
the one you were referring to earlier. You were explaining.
Yes. So
okay.
It's very difficult in a scenario like this because you can always look back at it. So they're saying if you found it on the ship, you could have stayed at the ship. But then when was the ship coming into Durban Harbour? If the ship stayed out at sea for 21 days, I would have to have kept policemen out at sea for 21 days, or myself for 21 days. And then sailed in with the vessel, and only when it was in Durban could the LCRC members have boarded the vessel and then done a forensics. So what we did is, we did contemporaneous notes, recorded it with witnesses, and corroborated with a statement.
And then once it got on land, why could you not call LCRC? I understand when it's in the water, there are dangers, they can't go there, but the exhibits don't stay in the water. At some point, you have to bring them on land. Why at that stage, as soon as they land, can you not call LCRC?
Commissioner, it's a valid question. You could. They would have taken a photograph of the sealed exhibit bag. The bag was sealed with the exhibits in it. I wasn't going to break the seal on the exhibit bag. So all they would have taken a photograph of was the sealed exhibit bag and wet cocaine blocks inside. I believe my contemporaneous photographs were sufficient and good enough to be able to identify the logos, identify the wrappings. I believe that mine was the Audi in that case, and I had the different logos inside. So, yes, looking back, yes, I should have possibly have called LCRC to the shore. Guys, this is the stuff that came off the vessel. Please photograph it for me. They would have done that.
Would they have been able to take any DNA at that stage?
No. It was, as I said, it was, if it's in the freezer, it's at, I think chicken and fish is kept anywhere between minus 18 and 20 degrees Celsius. It's an industry norm. So we are sitting at 32, 34 degrees Celsius outside. The moment I take that ice block out of that fridge, it'll start to precipitate. So the stuff could go wet inside. I don't know. I haven't opened it at that stage myself. But I can tell you the outside is slippery and wet, and we just slipped that into exhibit bags, and we sealed it beneath deck. We didn't even take it on deck to seal it. We sealed it beneath deck. I have the photos if you want to see those.
Okay. And on the Manuchal one, you said you were at the scene, but it wasn't your scene. You left at some stage. How is that different to the scene that you explained now, just to understand why LCRC was not called out in that instance?
Commissioner Manuchal, I was called in the evening to attend through a source that had called Crime Intelligence. Myself and a person from Crime Intelligence, we have a good relationship. I was informed, please come, pick him up. There's something being found and it's very suspicious. I arrived on scene, and what had happened is when a package is damaged or mishandled or in any way not how it was declared or packaged, the shipper then repackages it to make sure that the original stuff is what was originally said. And what they do is, in this case, it was bentonite. For those of you that don't know bentonite, it's either used in making soap or kitty litter. But it's a chemical product, but it's not bad or anything. And the bricks were hidden in 1-ton bags of bentonite. So bentonite is dusty. It would have devoid any fingerprints on the outside. And it would also have made the DNA of whoever had handled those bags devoid. Because it's the same as soap, just without the water. So that scene there, I called out my seniors, they took over that scene. But with regards to Manachar, that was about it for me.
And when you say your seniors, you're referring to Colonel, is it Sevilla?
Yes, ma'am. Yes, Commissioner.
Okay. So we can go back to the exhibit file, Exhibit 1, the Exhibit File 1. I just want to take you to the LCRC document, which is on page 255. It's a statement. And then what follows is what's referred to as a photo album. It does seem to be incomplete what we had received from the subpoena, but if you could just explain to us what this document is, why it's taken, and its significance in an investigation.
Commissioner, I'm correct that this is the statement in respect of the forensic photo album?
Yes, that's correct.
Okay. Commissioners, when an expert from the local criminal record centre or forensic science laboratory attends a scene, they do a statement. It's in terms of Section 212 of the Criminal Procedure Act, and it's deemed that they've done their work correctly and they haven't manipulated the exhibits, and it is done as such, and they've compiled an album, and they're saying that it's true as such. That is what this statement is. So this is the person that attended my scene. It's a lady. I'm not going to say the name.
And then, if we can then go to the photographs, page 258. I just want to ask you, what are we looking at here?
Commissioner, that is Manachar. Not Manachar, my apologies. Commissioner, that is the entrance gate to the bonded section of CHC depot.
And there's tape there. What is that tape that we see there?
It's police cordon tape.
So that is you securing the scene?
That is correct, Commissioner.
Now, at this stage, we're not dealing with a container. There wasn't, the goods were already taken out of the container.
That is correct.
Can you just explain to us how that process works? Because by the time you get to the scene, you're not dealing with a container anymore.
I was quite sure there should have been a photograph to show the environment. And it would be nice to show the Commission how close the containers are to us, but I don't see it. Sorry, Commissioner, this photo album is not in sequence.
Yes, and it does also
so
seem
if I can say to the Commission, so the image 1, where you are now, and image 2, if you had to turn around with that to your back, that's the VW Caddy there with all the crime scene equipment, if you had to turn around with your back to that, on your immediate right-hand side would be approximately 10 to 15 lanes of containers. That is where the inspections take place. Behind those containers is what we call the container stacks, where the containers are stored inside the depot. But your inspection by your customs, your inspection by the police members, your unpacking and repacking and moving from one container into the yard happens there. So if you're looking at the photo from this side, to your left-hand side, there is traffic. When I say traffic, it'll be forklifts, it'll be what we call pantuzis, straddle carriers that move around. That is where that image is, just to situate you in CHC in Isipingo.
And what is the impact on the rest of business going on in the area if you cordon off a section?
Only that section where I'm working has got no access to. The rest of the business carries on. And
in your experience, especially since we are talking about CHC, how is the cooperation with you cordoning off a section of the scene?
You cannot do an operation there without their assistance. The reason being, Commissioners, maybe the people don't know this, but there's a sequence of role players that needs to be present. I don't have a suspect. So who's accountable for what's there? Did the police put it there? Someone put it there? Was it done maliciously? We don't know. And also, we want to prove that we are not stealing anything from the yard. So there's a process. We call the depot manager, which is CHC. CHC will then give us their operations manager to attend. Then there's a person in charge of that section, because I cannot drive the forklift or move the stock around. They do it for you. Everything there, we don't move, they move. They do it all for you. They're very cooperative. Then the other thing is, there's no paperwork that goes around passing files like this to each other with all the documents. It's all done digitally. So for me to have obtained these documents, I would have to have cooperated with the management of the CHC to obtain the digital downloads. Then the other thing is, the location where you're working, they are compliant in terms of risk and management, occupational healthy, so health and safety. So the whole place is under CCTV. So we are actually being monitored by them in case something happens to us. So we must also work cleverly, work with a reflective jacket if there's a machine around, wear the heart at if there's a machine around, or give way. We comply with their occupational health and safety to be safe. But that's when I go back to saying it's a happy relationship that goes to the conduciveness of solving the crime at our time.
And what is customs' role?
Customs in this matter were the original complainant to myself. So customs had detained this shipment of, it was suspected to be illicit goods, counterfeit. I'm not going to mention the suspect's name, so I can say the commodities. It was skin lightening creams, it was hair products, it was counterfeit sunglasses. There was a whole lot of illicit and counterfeit. There was an ongoing investigation with these people bringing in different containers full with illicit goods, from clothing to medication. And in this case, customs had obviously done an inspection on the goods that had been unpacked from the container prior and discovered that one of the boxes contained suspected Mandrax tablets. So now, because they found it, they become the custodian, because it's in a customs area, or as they say, a customs space, if that's the right word. So technically speaking, the scene and the exhibits belong to customs. The reason being is, in South African economy and law, it's a criminal case, but it's also a SARS case. If SARS is going to charge that man in terms of the Customs Act, we won't see that. They will deal with him for all his illicit goods and his counterfeit goods, but we won't see that. That's the taxman. The taxman does his own thing. But the point is, the scene gets handed over to me by customs. So there's a handing over certificate. But because it came from a container, SARS goes further with their investigations, and then they profile which group of containers are coming in on the vessel or part of that, and they detain all of those containers for inspection. So there's now an enforcement process that begins. So because we have this relationship now, then we do a dual inspection of the other containers, hoping to find more illicit goods.
Can I take you to page 223 of that same bundle, that 223, 223 of the same exhibit bundle that we've been dealing with?
I have it, Commissioner.
It's the detention of goods. Do you have it?
I have it.
So there's one on 223 and another on 225. And it has different container numbers.
Yes, that's correct.
Okay, so these would have been the detention dated 23 January 2020. So this is before you go to CHC. So they would have, as customs would have, or SARS would have asked for these containers to be detained. Are these containers by the same shipper?
That is correct, Commissioner. So as you can see here, it's two different vessels, and it's highly likely that they would have used a different port to load some of their equipment, or they could have made the mistake, when I'm saying they, the suspects, because this is how we profile them. That's exactly how we do it. So what they do is they split the vessel. It comes in on two different routes, possibly Pier 1 and Pier 2, and then customs now obviously picked up, here's an irregularity with these people, or they've got a history I don't know, from my side, we have to rely on our databases to see if there's a history with the import or the shipper or transgressions. Customs has that. I know they do have that. So that helps them with their profiling.
And then on page 218,
218. Yes, Commissioner?
that's the handover form that you're referring to.
Correct. I reported earlier that it was the narcotics section that called me. The person on the narcotics section's name is here, and he hands the scene over to myself.
So the person on the top, that would have been from SARS, and you are the
No, that's
person...
incorrect. That's incorrect. That's 281. Must be
218. Yeah, 218. But the one that you have, 218, in front of you, we're looking at the right one.
Yes, I am.
Yeah, okay. It's the handover form.
It's the SARS handover form. It's got the KZN DDU 32200.
Yes, there it's the correct one now. So the top is the team handing over to
Correct.
you receiving it. Okay, and that authorizes you now to conduct your side of the.
Correct, Commissioner.
So you indicated that it was on the 5th of February. What are you doing on the 6th of February as well? Were you at the scene?
This is the scene where we found the wine that tested positive. So the SARS, that was in their custody. So to be released to me, they handed it back over to me.
Okay.
Because I wasn't happy that the wine was wine. I suspected it to be a substance containing methamphetamine.
And it was?
It was not in the end.
Okay.
But the initial test with the dog and the presumptive test gave us a false positive.
And is that why you called FSL?
That is correct, Commissioner.
But ordinarily FSL would not have come to the scene because it's not a clan lab.
Correct, Commissioner. But when we have strange chemicals and stuff and we understand the working procedure amongst ourselves, we work together.
So if somebody is conducting a seizure operation at a CHC depot or a depot similar to that and doesn't call LCRC but calls FSL, is that the correct procedure? And would FSL be entitled not to refuse to come out?
Maybe I must just explain how I know the thing. So the two laboratories do two totally different things, but they do overlap so that they index each other correctly. For a recovery, how I am shown and taught, a standard recovery we call out LCRC, not FSL. If it is chemicals and items that I do not know and I need guidance with, I will tell them such. Then they will attend. Or they will give me telephonic advice, process your scene like this, do this, we'll work with you. And we do. I've got a relationship with them. When FSL attends a scene, they also take photographs because they must also compile a 212 album. And it's pretty meticulously done. And what they'll usually do is they will use the same reference points. So A's are A's, B's are B's, 1's are 1's, 2's are 2's, if I can say that to the Commission. So we all know that it's room A, room 2, etc. So those two albums, if you put them in court, they would corroborate each other. And the Commissioner asked me earlier, why would I use a photo album? That's why. So those two albums then talk to each other. So that's why they also take photos on the scene. So if you ask me, the correct procedure is you can call either one first, it's up to you, but preferably LCRC.
Okay. So once you get to the scene, you have the exhibit bags ready, and if you don't have, then you would call for exhibit bags. You would make arrangements to get exhibit bags.
Correct.
Okay. In this instance, in your instance, what did you do with the 2020 bust?
If I'm correct in this one, I had some exhibit bags, and then after, I think we might have run short on the big ones, we had arranged a facility, members had gone to pick us up at SAPS Sydenham.
Sorry, SAPS Sydenham.
Sydenham.
Okay. And what is the correct procedure insofar as when the exhibits must be placed in the bags? Is it at the scene or can it be done elsewhere?
Oh, hot seat. At the scene.
And if it's not, could it be done elsewhere if the scene is not, for whatever reason, conducive to do so?
There would have to be a reason why you're moving it.
What would be a reason that you can think of that would be a reason?
From CHC?
Yes, CHC specifically.
No reason.
You say?
I don't think there could be a reason.
Could it potentially be that from a safety point of view, you want to make sure that you don't let people know that you've just uncovered 500 kgs of cocaine, for example, or in your case, Mandrax?
Commissioner, at that time, the biggest drug used in Mkhwanazi, I think, was Mandrax. So I think Mandrax would have been pretty much a threat as well.
Yes.
So that thought didn't cross my mind. It's safe there.
When you say it's safe there, just elaborate on that.
Commissioner, before you can get in, there's security at the front. There's a gate that you have to go through. They check you in. You have to drive nearly 300 meters before you can even get to the container stack. I had Metro there. I had SAPs there. We're all armed. I believe we were safe.
And disruption of commerce while you're busy processing, how long would it take to process the scene?
I was there from the morning until 5 in the afternoon, the evening.
In yours, in the February 2020?
Yes.
Can I just ask, you're discussing the 2020 operation, and this is a consignment that is bonded. It is in the, so it's away from the other commercial activity that happens. Let's put a different scenario. There's no SARS detention involved, and so these goods are not in the same corner as we see in these pictures, or the same working space, but it's in fact goods that are in a container lined up. We're still at CHC, lined up in the way that you describe. I think you described that there are other containers there. What constraints, if any, would there be to conducting the kind of checks that you're speaking about? You have a crime scene, what you're describing with Ms. Siegels. What would be the constraints that would make it difficult to work from there as a crime scene? And assuming the weather is not an issue.
Commissioner, the main constraint would be occupational health and safety for the members doing the crime scene, and access by all relevant role players. So you don't want to box yourself in. You want to be able to work freely, members in, members out. In my case, I had members that were sick. I needed an ambulance in, ambulance out. I've worked depots for years. They will bend over backwards to help you. I've worked a scene at Grindrod. We were there for literally from the morning until the next morning. They send people, they sit with you. So what usually happens is, if the scene becomes complicated, if I can use that word, Commissioner, they would then stop their activity on the left of your container and the right of your container. Sometimes they will even give you an empty container and stack it next to you. So because remember now, I don't want to be digressed, but what about the balance of the container? I'm seeing what's in front of me, which is the narcotics, but what about the rest of the substance behind it? What's happening to that? Once I've found something in the container, I must assume the rest of the container is tainted. So how do you deal with it? It's called an unpack. Unpack and visual inspection. So what usually happens is that must come out and go somewhere. But because it hasn't gone into the warehouse, it goes into the container next to it. And that's a nice way that you can get a hands-on, look at it, probe it, open it, stuff like that. So the constraints are you need to have a relationship with the warehouse before you start. Once you've got that, you must be prepared to work because everything should be able to be done there. If it rains, you're under roof. They just push the container forward. There's a machine that moves it for you. If you want to unpack into another container, they give you another container. They've got empty containers. We don't. The police does not have that. We don't have the machines to move them, the trucks, nothing. So the only constraint you would have technically is consumables on the scene, your crime scene consumables, your forensic test kits, your forensic exhibit bags, etc. That would be your constraints.
In that case, you would unpack the container.
Correct.
Because you really don't know whether what you're seeing in front of you is all there is.
Commissioner, with your leave, I've been asked about another matter in regards to a ton of cocaine that I seized. My notes will show you that nicely, how we do that. And leading up to that, the process of identifying the container from start to finish. So maybe that will answer your question again, but if you want me to answer it now, I can. No,
I'm happy to leave it to when you discuss it with Ms. Ncube. Maybe let me ask my second question related to this, that we've had evidence, for example, on another scene where the reason for removing the goods, the illicit goods, narcotics, to a different site is that, well, there was a lot of traffic, people moving, employees of the depot. I ask my question in that context to try and understand practically how does this become a problem? There's no means of cordoning off an area and preventing other people who are not part of the crime scene management to isolate them from that scene so that you do what you need to do on the scene. I'm trying to understand that practically.
Commissioner, it's a good question. And maybe I'm going to get a few bruises from my colleagues afterwards, but the people that bother you on the scene are policemen. That shouldn't be on the scene. That's who contaminates your scene. So if I tell you I've got a cordon tape, the stevedores and the warehouses, they will accommodate my request. They allow that scene to stay there and they will assist that it stays like that. They're not interested in coming in the crime scene. It's the policemen that want to come in and see, and the media that comes with them, and they want to take a video and look and touch. That's what contaminates your crime scene. So if you ask me, can you lock down a crime scene at a warehouse? My answer, Commissioner, is yes. How long can you do it for? As long as you want to. I've proven that my longest is 2.5 days.
Thank you.
Isn't the short answer that once you identify an area as a crime scene, whatever commercial activity was happening there becomes secondary? So people who are doing business there are no longer allowed to go to the scene. It is your scene. You are entitled to cordon it off for the purposes of conducting investigation. So it cannot be an answer to say, but we are running a business here.
Commissioner, you're correct. And I think it's been mentioned. I saw a statement where they said that the people from the harbour were there. The people from the harbour are there every single day. They are stationed there to conduct those searches. It's part of natural business to be searched by SARS and the police, if that makes sense to the Commission.
And under what circumstances would safety of be an issue? Safety of checking of managing a crime scene there and checking the exhibits, and I'm talking about the CHC in particular. What is it about the geography of that place that you would say would justify in some cases concerns about safety?
I have to think carefully how to answer this, Commissioner. Commissioner, are we safe here? That's why no, Commissioner, your question is valid, but the question remains is, are we safe here? If someone wants to come here and do what they want to do here, they will do it. Do I have knowledge of that? That's the question. The answer is no. Do I know who's coming to do it? The answer is no. So what steps must I take to prevent that from happening? I need to be aware, I need to be cautious, I need to make sure I've got my weapon. Must I have other guys on guard? Yes. Must I have a cordon up? Yes, because then I can see if someone crosses the cordon, I know that man is coming to make trouble. Deal with him. Does that answer it? For you, you've got security at the front door, you've got security when you scan.
Don't say too much.
No. Agreed, Commissioner, my apologies. What I'm saying is you've got an operational plan for a threat assessment. We have to do it the other way around. So it's in reverse. Now I'm here inside, I must protect myself going out. So the question that I would ask is, the Commission's asking me, was it safe there? In my scenario, I will say I was safe. I took the steps to make sure my scene was safe.
Let me ask this, and in fairness, I have to ask the question in fairness to those that have managed this crime scene differently. In your experience, with the kind of experience that you've had over the years, but in particular at a depot such as CHC, have you had instances where that there were threats of harm or in fact interference with what you were doing as you're managing the scene? And I'm not asking about your colleagues who are walking onto a scene, but the owners of the drugs potentially. Have you had scenarios or situations where as you're managing that particular scene at CHC, you might have thought maybe it's not safe? There are indications that there are people who are looking at what we are doing, have bad intentions. Let's move on. Have you had that kind of experience?
Commissioner, you asked, I will say, 4 scenarios there. You asked, has anyone ever micromanaged your scene? I will say yes. Have I ever felt unsafe at the scene? I will say no. If I can, Commissioner.
Unsafe as in not so much you personally, but the scene itself being disrupted. You've never had that kind, and no cause to be concerned about that.
There's a list here with a statement within general. I didn't know it was here, but here it is. Those are my scenes. They're not missing. They're safe.
Okay.
I transported those exhibits myself, all with colleagues across the country to places unbeknownst to a lot of people here. They're safe.
Okay.
We were never attacked. We were never assaulted. We were never diverted from our route.
Yeah.
We were safe.
So you're able to say, are you, that, and to say it unequivocally, that CHC, it's geography, it's set up there, and what happens when the police run an operation there of a seizure, it doesn't pose any fears of risk or an attack that you can think of?
That's correct, Commissioner.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner Baloyi. Can we just go back to where you were dealing with the scene itself? But before that, you are now in the bonded warehouse area. Where was the recipient going to intercept in order to get the drugs?
They would have to have driven it out. So someone would have to have cleared it from the bonded area, loaded it in a truck and driven it out. So we're looking at a clearing agent and a transporter.
And here we're talking about the container and these goods were detained because of the other counterfeit goods from the same shipper.
Correct.
So ideally what was going to happen is that these containers were not going to be detained by SARS. They weren't going to go to the bonded warehouse.
Correct.
Okay. But in the instance of where you're dealing with food, like bone meal, wouldn't that automatically be detained by SARS?
It's actually the Department of Health.
Yes.
Not SARS.
Okay.
It's the Department of Health. The reason being is it's a foreign food coming into our country, and our government needs to know it's not going to be fed to humans. It's bone meal. Funny enough, half of you people eat it anyway. It's used in making processed food, for bulking processed food, pet food, stuff like that. It's sad, but it is. Unscrupulous people do put it in. So it's dumped here as waste, but it carries duty. But because it's a food product and an animal product, the Department of Health must clear it. So they will inspect it, clear it, take a sample, and it is then released by them.
And where would they do their inspection?
As you open the container.
Where?
At the depot.
At CHC.
If it's at CHC, at CHC. If it's at Grindrod, at Grindrod. If it's at Maersk, it's at Maersk. It's done right there. Because the reason being is once that container is open, if there's a disease or something in that container, it's now exposed to the environment. So that if they find a disease substance in there, they must be able to contain it and be able to deal with it there. So that's why they themselves will deal with it right there.
And where does the Department of Health do their checks at CHC?
It'll be wherever their container is loaded.
Okay, so they don't have a special area.
No, it's where those containers come, they will check it.
Now, in the June 2021 bust, are you aware that it was bone meal that was in the legitimate container?
No, I'm aware now.
Okay, so that would have, in any event, been inspected by the Department of Health?
Department of Health, yes.
And they would have presumably found the cocaine amongst that?
Well, the answer is yes. It would have been the poor guy that opened that container from CHC. He would have been the first guy to see it. Then with him would have been the supervisor and the guys from the Department of Health. So the answer is in the end, yes.
So how would the recipient have intercepted on the June 2021 bust? How would they have intercepted to get the drugs undetected?
They would have taken it before it got into CHC.
And where would that have been?
So it could have been when it came off the vessel and put into the container stack alongside Pier 1, Pier 2, or New Pier. It could have been en route from New Pier to the packing area, and it could have been on the road. So again, stevedores, transporter, customs, police.
And maybe for those of us who are not familiar with the space and goods coming in from a ship, maybe if you could, in some, as best as you can, using language in some graphic detail, explain to us, a ship comes in, this is what happens ordinarily, and all of that process up to when it gets to the depot, just so that we have a mental idea of what you're talking about.
Thank you, Commissioner. So maybe I can illustrate, it's easier. There's a container identified on a ship. The ship comes in, the ship gets allocated a certain loading space, dependent on the depth of that vessel and the size of that vessel. There's also what they call a pre-arrival notice. It's put on an electronic system. We're going to be teaching the smugglers how we're going to find them here, but anyway, we'll just have to change our tactics.
Can be as summarized as possible, as long as we have a picture of how it works.
If I don't explain it to you, then you won't understand how easy it is to steal. It's actually very easy. The ship comes in, the container has to move. For the container to move, an electronic signal must come from Transnet to release that container onto the ground. The machine comes, picks the container up. Before it touches the ground, a truck gets an instruction, also computerized, to meet it. It goes onto a truck. The truck gets told in a stack. The container moves. It's got drugs. What we've experienced, in my experience, is if this container is, if you know Lego bricks, 1, 2, and 3. If you look at a six Lego bricks, it's got 6 dots on the top. Let's look at that in the stack as 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, like that. So they get instructions like that where to put that container. Now the suspects know that. If it is here, they can't touch it. It's too heavy, it's too high, they're too short. They need to move it. So we pick up the irregularities when an unauthorized move puts that from level 2 and 3 on the ground. If it's been moved to the ground without authorization, rip-on, rip-off takes place. I agree with that. But if they fail there, this container must then get moved again out of the controlled area into a processing place where they put it on the transporter's container. That transporter must then drive out of the harbour to a yard where it will be stopped, placed, stored until ready for unpacking, transporting, or whatever its destination is. Highly likely, the moment that truck leaves the control boom by Pier 1 or Pier 2 or New Pier, they will break the seal, take the drugs. Because normal people can have access to that part of the harbour. It's a risk.
Thank you.
That's rip-on, rip-off.
So Warrant Officer, by the time you get to the depot, that rip-on, rip-off would have failed in transit?
Correct.
Okay. So when you get to the depot, can you still steal without being detected?
You can, but then you need to be part of the depot.
Just explain that.
Well, you would be a staff member, and then you would slowly but surely carry the stuff out of that part of the section. But it would limit you for your access to that side, so it would identify a suspect to us.
And how would somebody other than a civilian, so let's say SAPs, how would they try and steal it?
Drive in when no one's looking, load it in your car and drive out. No one's going to search you.
And on an official basis, so if you, and yeah, I'm not talking about undetected, so if once it's in the depot, how does SAPs get access to it?
The police is allowed to be there. It's part of our duties. If I've got information of the drugs being there's elements in the Criminal Procedure Act, the Drugs and Drug Trafficking Act, the Medicines Control Act. They allow us certain elements there. We can also rely on the Customs and Excise Act, because we can enforce that. So if you're asking how would a policeman go in there and take it and drive out, you could.
As part of a seizure?
I can't comment if I don't have the facts, Commissioner, and it's leading me for a lot of hearsay.
That's fair.
I really don't want to say something that I've got nothing to do with.
That's fair. So in your instance, where in February 2020, we were not talking about a container, it's in the bonded warehouse. You got the information from SARS because of the previous because of the other counterfeit, the containers containing the other counterfeit. And you get the tip off that they suspect that there is, or by the time you get there, have they already found Mandrax?
So, the original call was there was someone from SARS that was unscrupulous and going to move the tablets.
Okay, so somebody from SARS was going to steal the Mandrax. Okay. And can you then just take us through, I know you've spoken about the scene, you bag it into the exhibit bags, LCRC takes the photographs. What happens next?
From there, it needs to get booked into the SAP 13. So the SAP 13 is relevant to that area, which would have been Isipingo. Did get there. Sorry, Commissioner, Mr. Carry on. Yes. Sorry, Commissioner, Mr. Carry on.
Yes, please go ahead.
We got to Isipingo. I believe I liaised with the station commander. They said they didn't have space in their SAP 13 room. Eventually, some form of agreement was made because they showed me the armory. But it did have weapons and articles in it. And I said, please, let me move the stuff for you. And myself and members from Metro, we then literally manhandled all the gun racks and the rifles and everything into the area. And that gave us space to store the Mandrax tablets inside there. And that's why it is signed for by the exhibit clerk at Isipingo, because he took custody of it.
So are you saying there's no dedicated storage at Isipingo for drugs? You had to use the storage for the armory for that purpose?
No, Commissioner. There is no such thing as a dedicated storage for drugs at a police station. It's a general exhibit storage room. Whether it is safes or a vault or an office or a cell. The items are catalogued and stored as per case, not as per the item. So it is a mixed match of all exhibits, if Commissioner understands that.
But my concern is you needed to move something out to make space for the drugs. So, and that suggests to me that then there is never space for drugs to be stored. The only way you can make space is if you move what is already there to make space for the drugs.
Commissioner, can I say this, if I may? To say that there's no space for drugs would be incorrect. But to say for large-scale seizures, we battle every day. Copper, diesel, illicit diesel. I've got no space to store. Too late now. I've got no place to store it. I rely on SARS for storing it.
Warrant Officer, the guns, the armory, and other things, those are always there, right?
Yes. So, Commissioner, those guns did not leave that room. We just moved them and pushed them to the sides to make space so we could put our drugs inside there. The same at Maiden Wharf. Maiden Wharf did us the same courtesy. We move everything and we make space for the exhibits to be stored there.
Is it a case of what you're explaining, that there is no, in any police station, there's nothing like a dedicated exhibit room? Is that what you're saying?
No, Commissioner, that's incorrect. There are dedicated exhibit rooms.
Yes.
There's some beautiful, massive structures at some of our police stations.
Yes.
What I'm saying is there's no specific room to deal with chemicals, flammable substances, hazardous materials, and narcotic substances.
I see. I understand.
Thank you. Can we go to page 267 of the exhibit bundle? Can you just identify that document for us?
(267).
Yes.
It is a hand entry by myself. It is Isipingo SAP 13163, and it is an entry by myself booking the exhibits in their exhibit bags at Isipingo.
And you're writing out every single exhibit bag?
Yes, Commissioner, with this pen.
And what is the role of the exhibit clerk in this process?
The exhibit clerk is going to take custody of those exhibits until they need to be analyzed, processed, or the end of it. So he is the custodian once I've handed them over to him.
And can you just explain the significance of the description that you use for the exhibits? You specifically say sealed exhibit bag, there's a serial number, and then you say what it contains. Why is that important?
This description comes with the forensic seal on the scene. So it shows that I have not tampered with my seal from CHC. So I have my contemporaneous notes. I have my LCRC member taking photographs of the same process. And I say here, can I read it? So
yes, you can read one here.
So entry 1, sealed exhibit bag. It's Papa Alpha 3000286215. These are unique numbers. They don't exist anywhere else but on one exhibit bag. Each exhibit bag is unique. It has a barcode, so you can scan it, as well as you can handwrite it. But each bag only exists once in its lifetime, so it's unique. It contains 2 packets with Mandrax tablets. Okay, I should have written suspected Mandrax tablets. But it is the description, and it shows the continuation from the crime scene, and it will show the continuation to the laboratory. So it gives me a quantum and how it's packaged.
Now, in your statement, you say that you then booked it out the next day for analysis.
That's correct, Commissioner.
What was the reason for booking it out?
Commissioner, I received a phone call. I cannot tell you who called me, but it wouldn't have been the station. I wouldn't have taken instruction from the station. It would have been from my management, someone senior. There was an issue at the station. They said their drugs need to go to the lab, people are sick. And I went there myself. And yes, the place, as I explained to you, it was cordoned off. It did stink.
Now, with FSL, do you have to contact them ahead of time to tell them that you're bringing the exhibits to them, or do you just rock up there?
If I'm bringing exhibits for analysis, I can rock up there. It was a Mandrax. They were our service provider. But in this case, when I did rock up there, they said, sorry, there's way too much exhibits to fit in our safe. It won't fit. And now I'm sat with a problem, because I know the police station is closed and everyone's booked off sick. They won't want me back. Where must I take the exhibits? And I believe there was quite a few phone calls made, and eventually, at that stage, I believe it was Brigadier Paramusa and it was Captain Bunzi that allowed the authorization of using a part of their vault at Durban Central to store those exhibits. So from Mandrax, we then transported them and they were stored at Durban Central.
Okay. Now, when you book it out for analysis, the intention is to take it to FSL, because only FSL can do the analysis, correct? And the SAP clerk would have countersigned that you're booking it out for analysis. You ultimately don't take it to FSL for analysis because they don't have space, correct?
Correct.
And now it's going to another police station.
Correct.
Isn't there a step missing insofar as the transfer from one police station to another? Because as far as the exhibit clerk at Isipingo is concerned, you've booked it out for analysis. You've attempted to take it to analysis, it hasn't. What steps must you take to rectify the entry with the SAP clerk at Isipingo?
So technically, because I've booked it out at Isipingo, that entry is closed. They won't be worried about that matter anymore. It's now, I've taken responsibility with it, I must deal with it. So me as the warrant officer must now deal with that problem. So the step that I take is now, it's booked in at Durban Central. It went into their books now. So I will then now have to do a chain statement saying I transported all the way and booked in. And I confirm these are the bags booked in, they haven't changed.
But is there a process that is followed? Is there a protocol from transferring exhibits from one police station to another? Or can you just take it, sign it out at the one police station, even if the reason for the signing out is not the correct reason? It may have been at the time when you did it, because you didn't know FSL was going to reject you.
Commissioner, I cannot say that there's a protocol, or I'd rather say I'm not aware of a set protocol when transferring exhibits between stations of correspondence. In my inquiry, I've documented what I've done. My seniors were aware of what I've done. They were aware of where it was. The next issue actually existed was trying to get those exhibits analyzed because of such a large quantity. And then eventually that led to us, without going for, it was sent for destruction. And that was, again, another issue.
I just need to clarify something. When you book out exhibits from an SAP 13 at a police station and you want to take them to FSL for analysis, why is storage an issue if you are only taking a sample and not the entire set of exhibits, for lack of a better term? I mean, my understanding is that they go to FSL to identify what the substance is for analysis.
Correct.
So you don't need to take 1,000 kilograms of cocaine to FSL. You only need to take a sample. How does it work exactly?
No, that's incorrect.
And why is storage an issue at FSL?
Sorry, Commissioner, that's incorrect. I can say from my personal experience, I've never taken a sample.
Take the whole thing.
The whole thing. Start to finish.
Isn't that a problem? Because if FSL does not have capacity to store everything, then even the exercise of trying to get the exhibits analyzed fails simply because they say we cannot take everything.
Thank you, Commissioner.
So is that a shortcoming in the process that needs to be attended to?
Commissioner, it's ongoing. And you've got it, I cannot say 100%, 220%.
And I was just trying to understand. I wasn't, because I don't know, but it
Commissioner,
seemed
you've got
to me
it.
that there was a problem there.
You've got it 100%. Sorry, Commissioner.
What was the storage capacity, do you know, at Amanzimtoti before flood damage? Because from previous evidence, my understanding is that they got into problems after there were floods. That is with regard to storage.
Commissioner, I have been there before the floods. I have been there after the floods. I am aware of what their facility looks like. I'm aware of how it works. It is not conducive to the storage of large amounts of narcotics or precursor chemicals, because that's another item that goes to the lab, precursors. And the precursors usually weigh a lot. And they are very voluminous.
I forget the context now. Maybe my co-commissioners and even the evidence leaders may assist. I seem to recall that in the context of one of the drug busts, a police officer testified that they took only a sample to FSL. I don't know how many bricks or what, in what form exactly the sample was. What would your comment be?
Not on my crime scene, Commissioner.
But besides your crime scenes, how would you comment on that being done or having been done?
It should not have been done.
Can I just to understand your answer for taking the whole consignment to FSL, all the exhibits? Correct me if I misunderstood the evidence. I thought, in fact, the national instruction requires that within 7 days, or maximum 7 days, all of those exhibits must go to FSL. Anyway.
Commissioner, I'm not in a space to challenge a national instruction.
No, I'm asking whether, is there such a national instruction, or did I misunderstand?
There is, Commissioner.
Okay.
But I'm a junior member. What I can say is we do our utmost to comply. Just to give you an idea, if I've got a ton of narcotics, there's very few vehicles you can put a ton in. Then I need to take a team to escort me. I then need to have accommodation for those members. going there, coming back. They must get paid. That paperwork takes some time. So when you've done that paperwork, you are past your 7 days. So, and maybe with the grace of the Commission they will streamline certain processes. But when you have seizures like this, there's always, we can talk back and we can say we learned. I need 10 members to do the armed escort, but we don't have 10 members at DPCI, so I must use NIU, TRT, or Special Task Force. I must then await their commander because I must do an application through my provincial office to them. I'm explaining processes now, but these are all that have to be documented and authorized by senior members, but it must be done.
I guess the essence of what I was checking with you is it's not an option available to SAP 13, whoever's holding his custody, to take only a sample to FSL and retain the balance. That was the heart of it. It was, anyway, everything must go to FSL.
Commissioner, if I may. The South American drug cartels, they're brilliant businessmen. We give them that. They have an honor in their institution to produce good cocaine. But let's just say the transporter or the facilitator on the deal is not onerous. So I'm commenting on a case of, let's call it 999 bricks. That's my knowledge. Those bricks don't come from one supplier. They come from various different suppliers. So if we had to really have a forensic laboratory, we could see the difference in the purity on those consignments. We could see this one was cut with petrol. We could see this one was cut with diesel. This one was cut with phenacetin. We could see the different chemical aspects of combining that brick. We could even go so far as to see how much pressure was used to make that brick of 1 kilogram. That's how far they are clever to do it. Why I'm saying, Commissioner, you want the whole shipment to go there. Each one of these bricks is better than a fingerprint. The brick itself is sealed. We've explained that earlier. I explained that. It's wrapped. It has a logo. But when you take that wrapping off, there's another logo underneath. I'm always interested to see whose logo is underneath. Why is cat calling TikTok? Why is it not TikTok and TikTok? Why is it not cat and cat? Why is Maserati sitting on a Puma? So we know there's something happened here. So understand that. But let's just say that's cocaine. But now enter the unscrupulous businessman, or the knocker as we call them. He takes the wrapping. Simple. You cut it, you open it, you take a brick of cocaine out, and you put a brick of flour in. In South African money, I've just made 400,000 rand. I spent 24 rand on 1 kilo of flour. I think it's a good business. I then wrap it with cell phone tape, and I book it in the SAP 13. That's why I would rather say, let's respect that the drug dealers there were onerous. Let's analyze all of them and get the proper analysis. But here comes the final element, Commissioner. What if those drugs contain a substance which is going to be killing the humans of South Africa? We've got a duty to then put a message out, which is what we do. We talk to the UN, we talk to the UN ODC, we do what they call a purple notice, and we can publish. Of these 999 kilos, one of them contained fentanyl. Fentanyl is deadly. Please put the word out. We're going to start finding people dying. So that's why we must analyze all of them. And the other thing is this builds data to work on international trends. This data is stored. It's shared across the world. So that's why, Commissioner, I'd say every single item should be analyzed.
Thank you, Commissioners. The protocol, it's on page 87 of the exhibit bundle, and it's 5.8, which requires all the exhibits, except for Dacha and Kat, to be cut. To be given to the FSL within 7 days in exceptional circumstances. It must be done immediately, but in exceptional circumstances, 7 days. That's at 5.8A on page 87. The heading, submission of illicit drugs for forensic analysis. If I understand what you're saying, Warrant Officer, you don't have an issue with all the exhibits going to FSL. It's the time period to do it within the 7 days that you say is unrealistic in certain circumstances, or in all circumstances. What are you saying?
Another thing maybe the Commission needs to understand, we've gone without S&T. Our commander said to us, guys, please, let's move these drugs. We know that authority hasn't come through. I've paid for 5, 6, 7 TRT guys, put it on my credit card at Southern Sun, because we didn't have S&T, but we wanted them out of the province. We wanted them in a safe space. And then we come back and we claim. We get our money back. So it's the diligence and maybe the passion on my side that you're hearing my story. But if you can hear it, what I'm saying is, if you want to do something, you can do it.
Okay. Now, insofar as the exhibits in the 2020 matter is concerned, when were they then? We know that it gets kept at Isipingo for 1 day. You then try to get it to FSL. Thereafter, it goes to, was it Durban Central?
Correct, Commissioner.
Okay. At Durban Central, don't they then have an issue, the same issue that Isipingo had with it making the members sick? What was the scenario there?
It's a vault, Commissioner. No one's down there. It's locked, it's sealed. It's like a deadly dungeon. No one knows it's even there.
Okay, so Durban Central has a vault. Okay, and Isipingo, it wasn't a vault.
Correct, Commissioner.
Okay. And during the time that it's now at Durban Central, are you required to make follow-ups with FSL until they do have space for you to take the exhibits?
That is correct, Commissioner, and that does take place.
We're talking about 47 kgs of Mandrax here. Did you make attempts to try and get it to FSL Pretoria?
I did, Commissioner.
And what was the outcome?
I think it was, over a year and some. We eventually, it was understood the investigation wasn't going anywhere. We couldn't tie the consignment to the suspects, so it was decided that we would dispose of the exhibits. But then we had to follow the correct disposal procedure. There's an 83A completed. Our commanders signed it off. They agree with the entries in the investigation, and it goes to Pretoria. But then we have to take the exhibits to Pretoria with the 83A.
Just tell us what the 83A, the SAP 83A is.
The SAP 83A is a form that we send to the laboratory and tell them what we want done on the exhibits. It goes with a packing note.
So if I can take it to page 114 of the exhibit bundle.
That's right, yeah. It's also on 113, Commissioner.
113 is related to the wine, isn't it?
But it's also on our 83A.
Okay. But the 114 is related to the Mandrax.
Correct,
Okay.
Commissioner.
So explain how this document comes about.
Commissioner, it is the result of trial for investigation. So usually after a person is found guilty or not guilty, acquitted, whatever, it's the court result. So in this case, it was an inquiry. It went nowhere, so the inquiry was going to be closed. It says there, case closed, yes. Suspects at large, no. There's no date of trial, and it says there specifically, for destruction, Mandrax tablets can be destroyed. It's signed by myself, and then that is countersigned by my group commander.
When is the decision made, and who makes the decision as
In
to
that-
when it's ready for destruction? So, who makes that decision that these drugs must now be destroyed?
It's a commissioned officer. So in this case, it was, can I say his name?
Yes?
It would have been, I don't know if it was still then captain, but it became Colonel Gopalsamy.
Gopal Sami.
Yeah,
So, you as the investigating officer, you don't make the decision?
no.
And you say it's a commissioned officer, so who would that be? What rank are we talking about?
Captain and up.
Captain and up?
Yeah.
Okay. So if the investigating officer is a captain and up, they can make the decision.
Not for themselves.
Who then makes the decision?
Next person above him.
Okay, so in the
So
case...
if the captain is the IO, a lieutenant colonel or colonel and higher makes the decision. If the lieutenant colonel is the investigating officer, a colonel, brigadier and higher.
Okay. So in your case, it was then... You can't remember if he was a captain at the time?
He was promoted to lieutenant colonel.
Okay. So he makes the decision. Do you motivate for it?
Yes, I would have written up the diary. I don't know if the diary is here. I would have written up the diary, and it would have been going nowhere in this case.
And how do you come to that decision that it's going nowhere? Just because you don't... Is there a time period, or can you make that decision within 4 months of the case?
No, Commissioner. So you could, but it's case specific. I don't want to say no for that. You could. But in this case, I was dealing with a group of suspects smuggling counterfeit as well. And I had other policemen doing stuff that they shouldn't have been doing, raiding without search warrants, so it compromised part of the operation. But this leg here, for me to say that the person that brought the drugs in had knowledge, I couldn't prove that, because he hadn't taken possession of them.
And when you're giving an instruction, or when you're completing the SAP 83A for destruction, it goes to FSL?
It goes with the exhibits.
Yes, to FSL.
Yes.
Does FSL perform an analysis before they destroy, or can they destroy without an analysis where the instruction is to destroy?
I'm not qualified to answer that 100% correctly.
Okay, so it's something we must ask FSL witnesses.
Please.
Okay. But in your case, were you interested in an analysis, or you were just interested at this point to get it destroyed because there was no need for it?
Commissioner, in the narcotics field, and maybe you've heard it here when we started today, why do I want an analysis report? Because I received something, the Commissioner already asked me, what is the steps in between of me moving those exhibits? What if it changed? What if that analysis report comes back now saying that it's sugar-coated tablets? I wanted to say that it's methaqualone. I recovered 541 kilos of methaqualone. Give me that accolade, there it is, it's now destroyed. If I've done something wrong, that lab report must then say, hey, this isn't 541 kilos, it's something else. You guys have taken something in between here. So it's a deterrent and an investigative process. That's why I'm saying I'm not qualified to say what the lab does, or whether they do take a sample or whether they don't.
Do you get informed once it's been destroyed?
No.
So you wouldn't know if the Mandrax was destroyed?
No.
And who would have that information? It's only FSL?
I know the person personally, but I don't know if I'm allowed to say it.
No, I just want to know the official that would know. Is that FSL?
It's FSL in Pretoria.
Okay, do they...
And if the matter comes out of Durban, and it has a Durban analyst, then it would be also liaising with the KZN laboratory as well.
Is there anybody from DPCI higher than your rank that would be informed that it's been destroyed? How does DPCI know?
Not that I know of.
Okay, so you never get to know about it, DPCI?
I've done one proper disposal, and that was of all the precursor chemicals for a Mandrax lab. And the only reason is we wanted to make sure that it was put in the ground during a landfall. And I've only done one in my whole career.
But then how do you know that your hard work to recover these illicit drugs is not undone by FSL selling them back into the market? If you don't have record that they have been destroyed and what has been destroyed, is the same amount of substances that you recovered and were delivered to FSL. I mean, how can you be certain that your hard work is not being undone at Pretoria?
Commissioner, it's a very valid point, and I agree with you. It's a trust relationship that I must say, yes, I'm happy FSL did their job.
But you don't know that.
I don't know it.
Can I just check this in this discussion? That SAP 83 at page 114, it indicates where you've got the signature of the station commissioner, Gopal Same. Just above that block or that column, there's a completed by, and then it seems to have your signature, and the date is 2023. And yet your statement says they were destroyed in 2021, these tablets. What does that mean?
Okay, Commissioner. I don't see the 2021. I can see I've completed, the form is completed by myself. That is my signature.
Yeah.
The date is 2023-03-28.
Yes.
It's signed by the commanding officer on 28-03-29. Sorry, it could be 08 or it could be 03. My apologies.
I was cross-referencing your statement that we were looking at earlier.
Yes.
In paragraph 8, you say in 2021, 11/12, the FSL Pretoria was able to dispose of the exhibits.
Correct.
Which were conveyed to them for destruction.
Okay,
So that's a 2021 date here, and here you've got 23. I'm just trying to reconcile them.
So this is the question that the commissioners have been asking me now. Now that it's going to be for destroyed, we must now make facilities to transport it. So if I'm correct on this shipment, we had about three cases that we transported up to forensics. They were stored at a certain place and delivered for destruction. But it was done on this date. So we consolidated our transport efforts with our escorts for this date.
Okay, so 2021 is when you sent them.
Correct, Commissioner.
Okay.
So,
and where would you have gotten the 2023 date if the lab doesn't tell you?
so the exhibits are at the laboratory. They've been delivered to the laboratory. Now they want to dispose of it. So they would have asked for a further letter like this. That is why I can understand it now. So we delivered the exhibits. They would have been sent with a packing note. Now the lab says to us, guys, I need you to dispose of this. Please send me a new 83A confirming your intention. I take the 83A, I have it confirmed, and this goes via email, and then they continue with the process.
Okay.
Thank you, Commissioner. I see that now. Thank you, Commissioner.
Thank you.
So the November 2021, it was just to take it to FSL for analysis and storage.
Correct, Commissioner.
Okay. And then did they contact you about progress as to what's going to happen now? It's almost 2 years. Or did you say, how did the destruction aspect come into play, if you recall?
Commissioner, I have a working relationship with the laboratory. I can say we called each other often about different cases. And they would say to us the same frustrations that I have. Please, can you get a disposal order? Or please, can you make that we can destroy these things? Because it does clog up their storage space. But we were on regular conversations with them.
Okay. Can we then go to the 999 kg seizure?
999?
Yep. The 1,000 kilogram.
Oh, my apologies.
That would have been in July 2021 after the 541 cocaine of June 2021.
Commissioner, I have it in this file as 238.
Yes, that's correct.
Sorry, 235 on the front, but it's 238 on the side.
It's 238 is what it's. Yeah. Well, can we start with, it's a CJC 238. That's what you mean.
Sorry, Commissioner, I didn't hear you. Can I start with?
Let me just get the correct, that's not where I wanted to start with it. Can I just take you to where I wanted to start?
Sorry, Ms. Ngube, which file are we looking at?
We're still in that file one, Commissioner. I just want to take you to the correct, 297 is where we're starting. But it's CJC 235. But page 297.
I have it, Commissioner.
Sorry, this is a different.
It's the Maiden Wharf 1,000 kg
Okay.
bust.
Maybe then let me ask a
Okay.
question that I had wanted to ask previously. In this 2020 transaction, or operation, you have an inquiry number,
Correct, Commissioner.
not a case number or docket
Correct.
number. Can you just explain how you obtained that or how you obtained that?
So, to do my job correctly, I need a case number. That gives me the power and a lot of other things that I need to do for the investigation. An inquiry number, it's generated on the CAS system from the police. So I can get it by asking my commander to register it. We have a clerk that maintains our database and our CAS system, so they could register it for us. And then that's how the inquiry number is registered. The difference is between the CAS and the inquiry. We cheated the police system to get DNA. You cannot log DNA on the database with an inquiry. It wouldn't capture it. So we opened a case. If the Commission understands that. So for me to get my DNA captured, I needed to open a docket, even though I didn't have a suspect. And usually a drug case is a straight charge on the police system. So straight away they start phoning you. Charge your suspect, where's your suspect, what's going on? So the moment you open a drug case without a suspect, it causes a red flag in the police, especially for my managers. But the case number allowed me to load the DNA at the laboratory, because that's how the system worked at the time. I don't know if it's changed now. So we hotwired the system.
When you say you asked your commander to register or to get it registered for you, is it because you can't make the request? Just explain that line
That is
of
correct,
authority.
Commissioner. I'm not in a position to register my own cases and inquiries. An officer has to do it for me.
Because this is your case?
No,
is
because
that
it's
why?
procedure.
Yeah, well, that procedure, what I'm trying to understand is it because you as the investigating officer, as a matter of procedure, as an investigating officer, you are not authorized to make a request, or the prescripts are such that only your commander or someone senior to you can request an inquiry? And I'm trying to understand how the system works.
The last section, Commissioner, is correct. I can ask, it used to be a lot easier, but now with our audits and stuff, it has tightened up. The procedure is at the moment, before I open an inquiry, I must have a senior commissioned officer, my senior, authorize that the inquiry be opened. And then they will open it, they will put the correct crime code, whatever is relevant to it, and then they will allocate it to me. I will then sign for it, and then I'll also sign for it in the register. With a docket, if I'm active on a crime scene, I am able, because I'm taking over that crime scene, I can register that docket and take that docket straight from there. But it's just the inquiry that is different.
Thank you.
Thank you, Commissioner. 297. Can you just tell us, start out by how you got involved in the 1,000 kg bust?
This was weeks of work. This is what I think the Commission has seen as the Ayrton case. This is the backbone of the Ayrton case. We began stopping sugar. dog food, bone food, then car parts. When I say car parts, parts to build trucks, all linking back. So the commodity changed. The intelligence at first was that it was inside sugar, all coming from South America. Then they changed from sugar to it was dog food. From dog food it came to bone meal and bone marrow and frozen offal, if I can say that word. Then they changed their commodity to truck parts. How I would understand it is the syndicate needed to move a large quantity. So they needed a company that was moving large containers out of that port. If you understand that port in Sao Paulo, you know where that commodity comes from. There's one road that comes down from Scania where the trucks are built. It's one road. And the syndicate owns that road. So they needed to find something in large amounts. So it was either bulk shipments of fruit, bulk shipments of waste. You cannot just send one container because it must look legitimate. So we were intercepting, I've got the dates if the commission wants it. We started, I've searched hundreds of containers before the seizure, hundreds. 10 at a time, 20 at a time, 1 at a time. But at the end of the investigation, a phone call was received by my senior then, Colonel Mudley, that some policemen were asking questions about some containers that had been lodged at a yard in Maiden Wharf. And we said, yes, at this stage we developed a relationship with Scania. And they then said, hey, there's policemen asking about this container. Do you know about it? They're not from your office. We said, no, but we're going to go look straight away. We got there, the policeman had left. The containers were in the yard. They were present. Myself and my colonel had a look at the containers. And I can say from my experience, I identified one container that set off my alarm bells. If the commission wants me to tell you why, I can tell you why. It's difficult to say that a container is a rip-off container. It's difficult to say that a container has got a hidden compartment. It's difficult to say that a container has got false anything in it, unless you literally unpack that container or you put it through the scanner and have a look. Let's not go there if we can. In this case, the seal looked legitimate. Let's just say that. The seal, the container seal looked legitimate. It was part of a legitimate cargo. The giveaway was the South American customs seal. It wasn't in the sequence of what I had experienced because I've been working on this case, on the type of seal. And it was different to the other 4 containers that I'd seized under the same shipment. That was my indicator to start with that container. And I was right. Because when we opened that container, the exhibits were there.
Can we go to CJC 195? It's the first document in Exhibit File 1.
Can I have it? I have it, Commissioner.
Can you identify that for us?
Yes, that's LCA's depot. And the container I'm talking about is the container on the left.
What color?
Green. UACU 562699, am I correct? Stroke 4. That one, yes.
The green one?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. So why are all the other 4 containers there?
It is part of the same shipment. So it's the same commodity code, it's the same shipper, or it's the same consignee. And it's supposed to have the same product going to the same place. They're also from the same origin, also from the same vessel.
So the information that you got was not container specific?
No.
How often would one get information that is container specific? Give you with the exact container number saying that's the container that has the drugs?
Often.
Okay, so it could happen, it does happen.
Yes, it does.
And then you would just ask for that container to be released?
Yes.
Okay. Isn't there a possibility that by just asking for that container to be released, other potential containers could slip through the cracks?
Correct, Commissioner. If I use the word shotgunning, so let's just say I had 100 containers split between two vessels, so call it 60 containers on the one vessel, 40 on the other. I then phone law enforcement, I say to them, go to that green container, it's going to make you look good. I go there and I leave the rest of the shipment to come through. How many tons do you think I could have pushed through the border? Unchecked, because we're too busy checking the one container. So the idea is, I can show you how we stopped. We literally stopped the whole consignment. So Scania itself was running at a loss because we kept on interdicting their containers. And we were saying to Scania, your risk is in Sao Paulo, because it's in Sao Paulo that they're loading the cocaine. So either you are doing it, your staff itself is loading it in the trucks, or when you release that container to the harbour, they are doing it. You need to take it up with them. We as South Africans are going to carry on interdicting your containers. So don't bother us. Let's rather work together and stop this drug trafficking, which is what they did.
So, Warrant Officer, if you had received the information about only the green container, shipment number and all of that, would you have just detained the green container, or would you have pulled for these other 4 containers or any containers for this with the same shipper?
I would have pulled those containers and all the other containers as well.
But in this instance, you didn't get information about just a specific container, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I'm asking in reference
So
to
sorry, my correction, Commissioner. How I understood it, my commander received information that there were policemen asking questions about these containers. Which container it was, I wasn't sure. If my commander at that stage had that information, I'm sure he would give that information. But I understood that there was the policemen were interested in those containers in that yard at LCS. LCS is right next to the Cutler complex in our restricted area in the harbour. So literally you would have come out of the harbour, turn left, you're in LCS.
This was the same shipper?
Correct.
Okay. The Aeroton drugs, was it also the same shipper?
Correct.
But that came at on a later date. The arrival was later, or was it on the same vessel?
It could have been the Polonia. So the main vessels was the Colonia, the Polonia, the Norma, the Savannah, the Nile Dutch Breda. They were all MSC vessels. No disrespect to MSC, because they were just a vessel.
So it could have been but it wouldn't have been one of the containers that were identified as being the containers that were suspected narcotics.
Correct. So they were under the impression that one of those containers had narcotics in. How much? I don't know. Where it was in the container, I also do not know.
Okay. So in my questioning of you regarding if the information that you receive, the intel that you receive, is about a specific container number given, one container, are you just calling for that container, or are you calling for more containers to avoid, as you call, the shotgun?
I'm calling for all.
From the same shipper?
Same shipper.
Okay.
And I'll also look if they've had what they call a groupage with possibly another shipper on the same vessel, loaded at the same port.
Now, is that protocol, or is that just based on experience? Are you guys taught to not be fooled by the intel that you get, that it's just one container?
Commissioner, it's not protocol, it's experience, it's working relationship, and it's training from the necessary role players in the environment. It's learned.
And if a warrant officer knows that, presumably a captain and a colonel should know that.
I don't want to answer that.
Okay, you don't have to. Please continue. So these are the containers, you identify the green one. What do you do?
The green one, this photograph, the seal has already been removed in this image, and the custom seal was removed. It's a blue aluminium custom seal with a stainless steel barb that goes through it. It's very unique, and that's what gave it away. But in this case here, it was the first case that I had recovered with a duplicate seal inside the container. Some of the times we'd found the rip-on, rip-offs where the packet or parts of the seal had been discarded, but we'd never recovered a complete duplicate seal. On the right-hand side of this container, as you open the door, there's an image here.
I think it's page 4.
There's an image at number 2, but they're not in the correct sequence. Number 4, you can actually see the duplicate seal.
This would have been, what, the original seal or one that would be used once the container is open?
Commissioner, let's say that both seals aren't original.
Okay.
How do we know which one's original? They're that good. It locks, it looks, the numbers are correct, everything is on it. So if we are using yellow seals, they will use yellow. If we change to blue, they'll change to blue. If we change to green, they change to green. They are up to date with our current risk strategies.
Thank you.
May continue.
Once I'd opened the container and seen what was inside there, I've been briefed. There's an international operation called Operation Black Bag. It is a project run by the United Nations. It's exactly that. They document these bags, these travel bags. And I've done a few recoveries of these bags like this. So my immediate suspicion was, thank you, that would be cocaine. Let me process the scene completely. I just closed the doors, and then we started the process of rolling out all the necessary crime scene experts.
And who did you call?
First, it would have been through to our commanders. So between myself and Colonel Moodley, we would have notified all our necessary seniors. We would have notified LCRC. I believe I would have called FSL as well, told them, listen, we've got a large seizure, but it's just for their heads up. And we got stuck in and started processing the scene.
And so, do you wait for LCRC to arrive?
Yes, Commissioner. No, we waited for LCRC. We waited for members from, I think, a Metro Street Crimes Unit arrived on the scene. They came to assist us and back us up. The members from ORS arrived on scene, and they were told to stay and assist us as well.
And how do you know before you open the container that you're dealing with a rip-on, rip-off? Or when do you realize it?
Before I open the container, I've told the Commission, my first indicator was the seal was wrong. So if I'm looking at these containers, so my hunch is saying, open this one, open this one. I'm not saying it's a rip-on, rip-off, because it could have been in the car parts or anything. I don't know if I explained that earlier. It's only once you've opened the wrapping do you see what's on the inside. So this one here, the only time I knew it was a rip-on, rip-off, once I'd opened it. And that's when I saw that, I knew that was rip-on, rip-off. And that is correct. That is the procedure where they put them in the bags. They break the seal, they take all that out, they put that seal back on to look like the container hasn't been tampered with, and they remove the narcotics.
Okay. If we can then go to page 313 of that same exhibit bundle. This is the LCRC photo album. Just let me know when you're there.
I'm here, Commissioner.
So that's the duplicate seal that we see there.
Sorry, it actually starts earlier, Commissioner.
Okay, do you want to show us something earlier?
It's so the Madam Commissioner asked me earlier about the working environment. Here in photo 1, page 309, here you can see a straddle carrier working while we were there. So you can see it's a working environment, it's a working space. It's again repeated in photo 2. Then in photo 5, the door is opened, you can see the cab from the Scania truck.
And who's present when you open the container?
It would have been the security manager from LCS. It would have been the shipping agent as well, my colonel, myself, and then from this process on, LCRC was present the whole time as well.
And what authority do you have to open the container? What do you need and what did
the
you
Drugs and
have?
Drug Trafficking Act, Commissioner.
Okay. Was there any permission that you required from anyone?
No, and they'd also, they had our working relationship and they consented to us searching their containers as well. The other thing is we weren't going to incur them any costs by moving that container to one of our facilities to unpack it. And the other thing is when you're dealing with these cabs, they cost a fortune. If you move them, you dent them, they run at a loss. So we try and work together so we don't damage their property as well. So they say, guys, here you go, tell us what you need, we make space available.
And by they you mean Scania? Who
No,
are you talking
this
about?
is LCS.
Okay. But it is a Scania container.
The product inside the container belongs to Scania. The containers themselves belong to other people. The yard belongs to LCS.
Okay, so in this instance, I'm just trying to establish whose permission do you need in order to open the container? Who must be present when you open the container?
Technically, I wouldn't have to have permission to open that container, but we were being polite and we asked permission. They had also raised the concern that there was irregular questions asked about that container. So they said to us, we can go ahead and search that container. So in terms of the Drugs and Drug Trafficking Act, I had the authority to search that container. But I also had their full consent to search that container. Because if they didn't want any drugs inside that container, because if the rip-on happened and they damaged those trucks, they would have been liable.
And is that consent given in writing? Or is it verbal?
No, it was verbal. I'm not sure if it was filed in the inquiry, but there is statements from the LCS owners on board, because they also gave us all their surveillance footage and everything on board when the trucks came in, how they were moved, how the policemen came to ask. We had that digitally as well.
Okay, then if I could ask you to explain the photograph at 314.
.314 is a seal, a duplicate to the main seal on the door.
And is this the same seal that we see in picture 313?
Yes, it is, Commissioner. It's just the lighting and the print.
Okay. And at 315, it's taken out of the packaging.
So just to go to the photograph on 314, you'll see the seal is taken out of a packet, but you'll see it's been swabbed for DNA. I wanted to know who put that seal inside that container.
We know that it has been swabbed for DNA because of that bag.
Yes, and then the crime scene experts always put the bag so you can get the bag number to reference to your crime scene.
Okay.
That's how. And then it'll be on the record as well, Commissioner.
Okay. So just 315, the seal is then removed from the packaging. Was it removed by your team at 315?
I removed it because I was the crime scene manager. I was handling that exhibit, and I packaged it in an exhibit bag as an exhibit.
I think then if we can go to 319, you mentioned the unwrapping. When does this also happen at the scene?
Correct, Commissioner?
Just explain to me why you do this at the scene, at photo 19.
There was a lot of bags. I stand corrected on the amount. So what I needed to do was show how each bag was packed differently. So to me, it's different people packing bags. I need to see, is it one person, is it different syndicates, different groups? And then each bag, I then package separately. I don't put them all in a pile and then just sort them into, because if there was a question, as I raised earlier, what if there was an untoward substance? I want to know which bag it came from, at what stage of the investigation, and where it was found in the container. So it's a methodical process of each bag got processed one at a time.
And when do you do the presumptive test?
I think I took a random one. Sorry, Commissioner, it's like a celebratory thing. Okay, which one are we going to do? Okay, go for that one there. Go it. I make a small hole. I do a nick test. It's a presumptive test. I know how to do it. Take a tiny bit of powder, put it in the item, crack the skin, change color, celebrate. We know we're positive. It's still suspected cocaine, though. The lab must still give me the indefinite on that.
And the presumptive test, is it a kit that is given, that you have at the office, that you take with you to the scene? What is it? What are we talking about?
Sorry, no, Commissioner. That's one of the other tools, as explained earlier, self-obtained.
You buy it at your own cost?
I believe these were obtained during some of the training interventions that I attended. And the facilitators would then give us whatever they had to use.
And on page 320? Oh, sorry.
Just to understand this. So ordinarily, this is not supplied. The kit is not supplied by the SAPS. So in the normal course, if you're doing a bust like that, you're at a scene like that, and you don't have the kit, which ordinarily people wouldn't have unless, like you, they somehow have procured them, you would do what? You'd simply seal whatever you're finding in the bag and then enter in whatever record and then take it to storage, hopefully straight to FSL. Is that how it would play out until it is tested?
Actually, Commissioner, I like that question. Thank you. Let's say I didn't have a nick test, a presumptive test. In this case, I use a wipe. I don't know if we used a sachet test, but that was a cocaine wipe. You just wipe it and the whole thing changes color. It's phenomenal, but it does stink and burn your hand a little bit, so you must use gloves.
Page 320, there's something, is that
Yes,
what you're looking for?
correct.
Yes, yes.
So there, all I've done is I've just lifted the top and exposed, get to it, take a small. Commissioner, with these bags being sealed like this, the other indicator I could have used here was a dog, a trained narcotics canine. I mentioned in the Mandrax we used the SARS dog, tequila. The same would have applied. A dog would have reacted to this. And then the other thing is, it's my environment. I should be sensitized to what the current trends are. It's supposed to be my field of, let's say the word expertise. I'm supposed to be a subject matter expert. So if I see it, it's the duck story, Commissioner. If it looks like a duck, quacks like a duck, walks like a duck, it's a duck. But unless you pull the feathers off, it's not a duck. So in this case, it did everything until the lab tells me, and they pull the feathers off, it's a duck. So I still say it's suspected cocaine. But in this case, what would the normal policeman do? One, if he's not qualified, call someone that is qualified. In the olden days, SUNUP was called out to the scene. They were qualified. If I didn't have a nick test, hey guys, call a drug dog, let the drug dog run. The drug dog would sit, that's an indicator. Bark or whatever it did, that's an indicator. There used to be electronic devices, sniffer devices, but I'm aware that they don't exist anymore, or not able to be used, because that device would have been able to touch it and give me an indicator. Remember, it's not an analysis. It's an indication that it is what it is. So, Commissioner, that is where we are. But as a normal policeman, he wouldn't have got to where I was.
Thank you.
Normal or ordinary policemen, do they know, or would they know from training or whatever, that if they happen upon a narcotics scene, such as you did, they would have to, they should or they must call the dog unit, get a sniffer dog? Is there anything that guides that police officer?
Commissioner, I have sight of the basic narcotics identification program, which is presented to the student constables, and then there is the basic narcotics identification course, and then the courses go up from that. I have sight of it. And as Commissioners asked now, the guidelines on handling and touching those substances are taught to the students. Don't touch it, it does this, it reacts with you like this, these are uppers, these are downers, and the hazards that the stuff go with them. But the crime scene investigation techniques that go with them, and the type of scenes and the packaging of those exhibits is taught to the South African police. And that is current.
My specific question, that would include that you get a sniffer dog. I ask because we've had evidence where police officers with no experience in drug busts have looked and said, yes, this is cocaine, and they moved on, and basically they handled the suspect goods. So my question has that kind of history to it, that police officer knew or knows as part of training, that ordinary police officer knows as part of training that I've happened upon a narcotics scene, I must get K9 to, including together with the other things that you list as saying they are in the manual. One of them is they know that I have to get a dog to come in and sniff and confirm it is what it is before I move the stuff.
It's advisable, Commissioner. I still do it. And even with, let's just say, my work experience, I will still call a colleague, hey guys, I need a dog. The police guys will tell me, hey, we don't have a dog, they're too old, or they can't come up, they can't get there. I will then phone people that have accredited dogs privately. Please bring your dog, they come, they give me a statement, it's videoed, the dog reacts. Manachar is an example. A good colleague of mine brought his dog there. He works for a security company, and his dog reacted at every single bag. So it can be done.
Warrant Officer, I'm asking a different question. And my question is really more to understand the training aspects or prescripts, if you like, that if a police officer who doesn't have your experience happens upon a drug or a narcotics scene, are they in breach of their training or a prescript, if at all, if they just proceed to handle this without, for example, having a test or calling LCRC or even a dog to come search and confirm that these are narcotics? I'm asking the kind of question whether out of training, would you expect or must a police officer do that?
Commissioner, with your leave, I'd like to add one word to your question. Would the lack of training result in that answer? Or the non-exposure to continuous training in that field, I believe, is going to give you your answer. You can receive the training, but if you're not updated to current trends, current processes, for instance, heroin, Durban has a very unique method of selling heroin. It's in capsules. The capsules are indicative to certain syndicates. It's a trademark. Now that, I'm told, moves between Gauteng now. They've also started following it. You don't ingest the capsule. It's just merely a sale vessel. Same as a cocaine block. Maserati, cocaine, red and white. You even heard them at one stage, the Teddy Mafia. If you as a policeman now are only seeing for the first time in college an orange and white capsule with a green logo on it, with TM on it, you think, oh, that's heroin. But now when I go and search this lady over here and she's only got white capsules in, which is the current status in Wentworth. Oh, that's not heroin, let's leave her, she can go. There she walks off with 30 capsules of heroin because I'm not up to date with the current crime trends in the area. So narcotics is a specialized field. Either you want to work with it or you don't. Don't dabble in it because you're going to make a mistake or get sick.
Thank you, Commissioners. Commissioners, we are about to adjourn, but Advocate Selo wants to address you on 611. Or will we do it tomorrow? We'll do it tomorrow, Chair. The witness may be excused until tomorrow. He's been subpoenaed to appear in a criminal case for the rest of the week, but he indicated that he'd only be called later in the week, so he's made himself available for tomorrow, and he has cleared it with the necessary authorities on that side.
Thank you. Warrant Officer, we are adjourning until 9:30 tomorrow. Let us see you here at that time. In fact, you should be here before that time.
I will be, Commissioner.
Thank you. Let's adjourn.